Let me just check the feed. That's the delay always gets me. Like, I can never tell if you're actually live or
I think we are.
yeah,
It's
great.
it says live.
So I would presume so.
Yeah.
Well, everyone, welcome to this special live stream. Yeah, absolutely. There it is. So I'm Stetson. We have a special guest here, Sneed Mobile Tech. We're going to be talking about 5G versus LTE. I just released what I would consider a pretty epic speed test video. Put a lot of time and energy into it, pitching Verizon versus AT&T versus T-Mobile, 5G versus LTE. And I thought, what better guest to bring on the show than Sneed Mobile Tech? Sneed, you want to talk about what you do on your channel, what you're about, and what your experience has been?
Okay, so on my channel, I pretty much take what you just did in your video, and that's become the entire mission of my channel. I also do like news updates. We bring all the technologies to the forefront of the channel as topics of discussion, as topics of investigation. Anytime there's something new that comes to T-Mobile, whether it's like a, band 41 upgrades, deployments, new technologies, hardware, phones as well, educating customers as to what's available for them to buy, what they can expect with certain services and carriers. We cover all of that. Now, with the new N connections, the new NR 5G, we've got a whole bunch of stuff to test, right? And as these things become more ubiquitous and they're more greatly deployed across the country, we test them. And, I can report back with my actual, usage, my personal real world usage. And then we share that information and we share the data that we get. So what you did, and this is why I'm glad you called it epic, because it really was. You took 3 carriers who all have a robust LTE network and varied deployment types and rates of 5G.
It's true.
So what they love to do, Stetson, is make claims. But the thing about it is, and I'm a parent, and Yasmin is wonderful. She's my daughter. But in my eyes, she could do no wrong. But she might do wrong, and then somebody else would say, "Oh, your kid is bad." So what I'm saying is carriers lie and they exaggerate. So we as customers have to sift through all of that. What's truth, what's exaggerated, what's real, right? So we get the phones, we get the plans, we put up our ducats, we pay the money and we test it, right? And we make content on it. And I feel like we're in this greenfield time of 5G. The testing is crucial. You know what I'm saying? It's really, really important. So Stetson's going to test in Longmont. Stetson's going to test in Boulder. He gave it to you in Denver. He gave you all these different markets, and then he tested all 3. It's important data, right?
Yeah, try to be
Yeah.
as thorough as possible. So where do you want to start here? Like, I feel like we should
Ooh.
just pick a network and kind of go from there.
We should probably start with the LTE networks of the 3.
Okay, do you want to
You
do
want
like
you want to
Verizon or
Yeah,
all
let's do
right.
Verizon, man. Big Red, dude, the big one.
I'm gonna pull up just some results side by side here so you can kind of see what I experienced while I was testing out Verizon. We have 3 locations here. These were in Longmont, Colorado. And that's where Verizon has their what they're calling nationwide
Mhm.
5G, right, deployed. And you can see from my testing, this was actually slower than LTE for quite a few of the tests in Longmont. In Boulder, if I pull that up, you can see again somewhat slower on the downlink, a little bit faster on the upload. And then in Denver, that's when we had those insane speeds with the millimeter wave connection. So, Sneed, what's your take on low band 5G from Verizon with their nationwide 5G network? What's going on here? Why
Yeah.
is it slower than LTE? Is this even 5G?
The answer, by definition, it is 5G. The problem is it's not giving anyone a transcendental change in network experience. So it makes us question, should we even really call it 5G, right? If it gave you even a 30% increase in throughput and bandwidth, right? Like you could notice that your network got faster just by usage. Like, oh, wow, that app downloaded so much faster. Oh, this is great. I can now watch HD video without buffering. Or, oh, I can send this file to my friend, for this video upload, and it got there 50% faster. right? That's measurable. Somebody would say, wow, my phone is definitely faster on this icon. But what it's become and what it's kind of devolved into is the competition for an icon. How how can we get the icon on the phone as much as possible? So
Right.
when Stetson is looking at his display and when Sneed is looking at their phone, there's a 5G icon in the upper right-hand corner to tell them you're connected to 5G. Oh, look how often you're connected to 5G. So Verizon has kind of fallen into the trap, a trap that was actually set by T-Mobile
Right?
when they
Yeah.
first launched low band 5G. So we thought it was going to be great. We thought we were going to see these amazing speeds. And what we kind of now know is that it doesn't matter if it's 5G or LTE. A skinny channel is a skinny channel, right? So what it boils down to, Stetson, is the low band 5G, whether it's LTE or 5G, doesn't matter. If it's 10 megahertz of bandwidth, it's 10 megahertz of bandwidth. And the problem with Verizon's 5G rendition for nationwide, we'll put that in air quotes, nationwide.
Big
It's
air quotes.
right. It's band 5, which is 850 megahertz, so it's low band. It's usually 10 megahertz that dedicated to downlink. So it's a skinny channel. And now you're gonna share it, dynamic spectrum sharing, between LTE and 5G. It doesn't get any worse than that.
So you're taking a skinny channel and you're cutting it in half and making it even skinnier. Am I
You're
understanding that right?
compromising it. Yes, you're
Wow.
comprom so you're running it thin. So, eh, now if it was a 20 megahertz channel, the DSS seems to work pretty well,
Okay.
right? So that seems to kinda be like the engineering perspective of it. If you got a larger channel, the split is less detrimental. So the spectral efficiency, fancy word for squeezing the most life out of it, right? It's
Yeah.
really about having larger channels if you're going to do that. So if Verizon, for example, had a 25 or a 30 megahertz band 5 channel, the DSS issue is non-existent. The problem is
They
skinny
just
channel, and we're
yeah.
gonna try to DSS it, right? So
Okay.
me and Stetson get a small pizza, and then we're gonna split it. We're still gonna be hungry at the end, you know?
So true, it's so true. But Verizon, I feel like actually had a great comeback with their performance in Denver, right? So this is where they've deployed millimeter wave 5G, and I was actually surprised, kind of how rapidly Verizon has been building out their millimeter wave network in Denver. I feel like I checked the map, and more streets continue to be lit up. Unfortunately, I feel like Verizon is literally just putting the millimeter wave coverage on the street itself. Like you
Mhm.
can't really tell how far the signal goes or
Yeah.
propagates.
Mhm.
But I got it in a few locations here, and the speeds were tremendous. I mean, not as fast as what you're getting in the
Yeah.
CLE, right?
Right.
But still really fast for a millimeter wave connection. So, what is millimeter wave doing, and how is it able to be so much faster than these skinny channels we were seeing on the DSS nationwide 5G network?
So the channel size, typically for a millimeter wave channel, it starts with 100 megahertz.
Oh
So
shoot!
right off the rip, we're going from, conversations of 5 and 10 and 50 and 20 megahertz, and we're shifting our focus into 100 megahertz channels. And then if you take a look at the spectrum holdings for Verizon, there are markets where they own 800 megahertz of licenses. So let's take a 100 megahertz channel. Let's fast forward to 2021. All right, Stetson. Let's
Okay,
summer 2021. Any market that Verizon has 800 megahertz of millimeter wave, the next generation of Qualcomm modems will be able to utilize all 800 megahertz of it.
damn.
That
So
is insane power. So we're literally talking about 4 to 5 gigs per second on a handheld mobile,
wow.
which is incredible because we don't even have fiber optic doing that,
Yeah,
right?
that's that's
Your home gig,
bananas.
yeah, your home internet's probably gigabit speed, right? Single gig.
Yeah.
You're doing one by one. So there you're gonna be doing that, and more. So yeah, and she brings it up. If you wanna highlight Cash Game's comment there, there are markets where they're doing over 2,000 megahertz of it. The reason I cited the 800 is because that's, like, the benchmark. In most markets, they have 800. There's some that have more. Uh, the only thing has been we've been restricted by hardware, and I'm not gonna make an argument that any one person needs 4 gigs per second on their phone. But it's not about one person, Stetson.
Right.
It's about the 10,000 people at the NBA game. It's about the 20,000 people at the concert. We're not going to sit here and act like the pandemic isn't real, but I just know that it's eventually things will kind of go back to normal.
Right.
And that's that. And think about the home internet implications,
Yeah,
right? For
it's
people that
huge.
are going to put receivers and people are going to be getting this connection, you no longer need fiber optic to your home, right? Wireless becomes legit once they figure out the logistics. How do we get this to work indoors, right? Which they are. They're figuring it out.
Right, right. So yeah, I was really happy with what I saw on Verizon with their performance here. And yeah, I guess how long do you think it's going to take them to really build this out? We're starting to see it in some more densely populated cities. When do you feel like more people will be really able to take advantage of the millimeter wave network offerings?
Based on their trajectory, it's a focus of their build. They're putting a lot of money to it. They're building out as fast as they can. Wherever cities let them deploy, they do.
Okay.
So, this conversation in 2025, I think most of the larger urban areas are done. I think Boulder, Denver, those larger cities, we'll call them top 50 markets, they'll be completely done by 2025. The next set of 50 markets, I give them to like 2028. And
Sure.
then after that, it'll be situational. There's no need for millimeter wave to be national per se. Like
Yeah.
you can't really make an argument to serve a community of 1,000 people with millimeter wave.
Doesn't make sense, not
No,
economical.
no.
Do you think
So
Verizon will, after this auction that's coming up pretty soon, that you'll probably be covering more on your channel? Do you
yeah.
think they'll start to focus on building out the mid-band spectrum once they have the rights to that?
Yeah, it's gonna be a big part of what they do in the next few years. So the reason why Verizon is focusing on millimeter wave is because there's nothing else to focus on.
Yeah,
They don't have mid-band to deploy, or else
yeah,
they would be, right? So that's coming with they've just got some CBRS. They went 30 to 40 megahertz in like the top 50 markets. So if you're a person who lives in the top 50, you've got large channels coming your way of mid-band, right? A 30 to 40 megahertz channel is legit, right? Like that's going to add tons of throughput. You're probably going to see speeds of like, I don't know, 400 to 500 megabits per second on those tower sites, right? So it's going to be fast. They'll put tons of those little small cells. You've seen them,
yeah,
right? You've seen them
absolutely.
around on street poles and
Yeah, I
stuff.
think you just actually
Yeah.
shared on Twitter. They're starting to put
Mhm.
them on intersection, like the lamp posts
Yeah.
on intersections
Mhm.
and those things. So
Yeah, that's how they densify the network, and that's how they respond to traffic. Areas that have a lot of data needs, they're going to address it, and that's what CBRS and the midband is really about. And the network is already mature, right, Stetson? They've been building out for a while. There's a lot of pre-existing sites. So now it's gonna be addressing gaps, addressing congestion. So the CBRS is important. You mentioned C-band being
yep.
auctioned. That's literally tomorrow or Tuesday. I think
Yeah.
Tuesday is the start of that.
Yeah, Tuesday, you're right.
That'll
December
go on
8th.
for a couple of months. And then the conversation we're having next December is gonna be they're gonna start to deploy it. So a year from now, it's gonna be pretty cool to see how they start building this out, and that's really important to us. Like, you can make an argument that millimeter wave is, "Oh, I'm not gonna see it for a while," or, "It's gonna take time," but not the mid-band. They're gonna climb those pre-existing sites, and they're gonna start adding the antenna hardware, and you guys are going to be the beneficiaries. I think a company like Verizon understands Stetson wants HD video. Stetson wants
So
hotspot.
true.
Stetson, like the and myself, I mean, I make videos on these features all the time.
Yeah, it's been great. I think what I'm most excited about with Verizon is I noticed I watch all the Apple keynotes and I know they highlighted they started bringing millimeter wave to airports. And I think that
Mhm.
is huge because many
Yeah.
of the airports I've been in are like notorious for slow, congested Wi Fi. So airports, just sign me up. Like you can arrive at the airport, download your whole series on Netflix, and be good to go with your entertainment for the
Well
flight.
said. That's it.
I'm
That's
s-
precisely what it's for, Stetson. Just
I'm
to
super excited.
it's awesome.
So I think we should talk about AT&T next. And I actually had weird results for them where their coverage map, I believe, said had 5G coverage in Longmont, but I was only getting 5GE, which was actually great. The speeds were phenomenal. I was
Yeah.
blown away. But then when I went into Denver, so we had 3 locations here, the Union Station, Berkeley Lake Park, and Sloan's Lake Park. The performance is actually slower from my testing. So what is AT&T doing with their 5G? Are they doing kind of more of what T-Mobile's doing and focusing on low band? Are they also doing what Verizon's doing? Can you give us a breakdown of the AT&T 5G strategy right now?
The AT&T 5G strategy is confused.
Okay.
It is so we just talked about Verizon's. I feel like AT&T wants to do kind of what Verizon does with millimeter wave. They do have some of that, but they don't give maps.
Yeah,
So
that's the
we're
thing.
seeing
Like,
it.
I would have tested that, but I
Mhm.
actually have no idea where it is. I
So
have no idea.
Stetson, we'll speak a little bit offline. We'll talk about how we're gonna find these sites for you to test.
Okay,
It's
okay.
I have a bit of a source that can help us with that, locating them. So we'll see if we can figure it out for you. But, they don't map it because I think they feel like it's not really substantial enough to map it. I think that's just an indication of it. It's like,
It's
you know,
nowhere. That's what it means.
like
It's not in any markets yet.
yeah, the number of markets is skimpy, and then the amount in each of those markets is skimpy. So mapping it would actually be more trouble than what it's worth. I
Sure.
really don't think they wanna pay somebody to go and map it. So that literally, they think it's that small, you know? Um,
That's surprising.
but it's really good when I connect. It's just
Yeah,
a
it's
lot.
I think it's, like, on par with Verizon, right? Like, the
It
millimeter
def
wave, you're getting incredible
um,
speeds.
they don't have the range.
Okay.
Verizon is if I was gonna compare it, Verizon is they're doing the millimeter wave thing. It is their baby. They are the ones with millimeter wave technology. If you're in the millimeter wave market with Verizon, if it's not great now, it will be great very soon. The AT&T is coming along. T-Mobile's not really focused on millimeter wave. It's going to be extremely situational. So that's why I was saying, like, with AT&T, it's kind of a mix of both. We're seeing they kind of sort of want to do what Verizon is doing with
Yeah.
millimeter wave. They don't want to not be part of that party, right? They want the invitation, they want to go, but they want to lay low at the party. T-Mobile's like focusing on, the N41, which is 2.5 gigahertz for their capacity, which is more macro site based. It's not really about the nodes, a bunch of different blocks. It's about getting it on big tower sites and trying to get it to reach a mile and a half or something like that. And that's what AT&T is doing too. Like they want to focus on low band and mid band. So I call them the confused 5G network, because
It's like they're
and
doing both, but a
right.
medium job at each, kind of.
Yes, yes, which is kind of aggravating because what do you want better than to have commitment in your life, right? Like, what to expect, you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? I
yeah.
feel like Verizon's kind of like all in on millimeter wave for now, so we kinda get it. T-Mobile's all the way in on their plan, and we get it. AT&T is like wishy-washy, they're kinda like 1 foot in, 1 foot out, so we're kind of confused as to what they wanna do.
So it was likely that this was their low band deployment then with the decrease in performance.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay. Kind of
Mhm.
what we come to expect. We actually have a question here. See, Sneed, if you're able to answer this. Dennis
Yeah.
P. Dennis, first of all, thank you so much for your support in the super chat. I really appreciate it. Shouldn't 5G still be causing an uplift in performance? 5 by 5 of spectrum, for example, on 3G was noticeably slower than LTE. The same should be true on 5G.
So if we take a look at a 5 by 5 channel that was used for 3G and it gets refarmed and repurposed for 5G, 100% it will be more spectrally efficient because the hardware and the software operations of said hardware is going to be more effective. More powerful radios, more efficient radios. It's actually better for the environment to use 5G radios. They use less power. So there's a bunch of upgrades, which I'm big on, by the way, Stetson. I'm big on
Yeah.
the environment. Anything that saves power and energy, makes it more efficient, count me in. So I'm loving 5G. Plus, it's also going to make my phone faster and more capacitive and give me a better experience. So I'm all in. So that situation that Dennis brings up, 100% true. By simply going from 3G to 5G application, it's going to be better. Um, I don't know if I could give you a percentage, if it's going to be 50% better, but I'm telling it's gonna be noticeably better because even between 3G and LTE, it was a great improvement. Stetson, are you old enough to remember 3G?
All right, so my memory of 3G is my cousin got the iPhone 3GS, and I
Nice.
remember, like, the example of like loading a web page, and you would get
Took a while.
these checkerboards, but then it would slowly
Yeah,
appear, and it wasn't like a
yeah,
mobile optimized web page. It was like
yeah.
the full
Mhm.
desktop page. You have to like pinch to zoom in. It was crazy. So I do remember that. I
Okay.
remember LTE coming out because AT&T did the whole same thing. They had their I don't even they just started calling it 4G when it
But it was
really
HSPA.
yeah, it was not
Yeah,
good.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, we've definitely come a long way in terms of
yeah.
network technology.
Yeah,
All right.
each generation is supposed to make things better, you know?
I would hope so. I would hope
Well,
so.
that's why we're struggling with this whole low band 5G situation. We're like, "Yo, where is the improvement?" We're seeing decreases in performance, you know?
I think my take for Verizon, at least with their DSS, is with the iPhone event, they wanted to launch with a 5G icon in the status bar, right? So
Yeah,
they made a 5G icon available in as many locations as possible with their DSS deployment. And I'm
mhm.
sure from a technical standpoint, maybe I'm wrong, you could correct me on this, but I'm imagining DSS will help them migrate to a true 5G network core in the future. But for now, I think it was 90% marketing, and then now that Verizon has deployed the marketing material, they can go back to focusing on their millimeter wave build out.
I think you're dead on. I think you are 100% accurate in saying that based on my testing, based on my understanding of the engineering, I don't think you have to get too technical. There's a lot to be desired in the performance, and they've they've done so because they're trying to market their brand, right?
Yeah.
If you look at Verizon's branding right now, they are dominating the NFL Sunday, 5G built right. 5G game changer, 5G nationwide, da 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 da. Da. They just keep hitting you with it because they want you to think Verizon when you think 5G and vice versa, right? So they're trying to connect those things. So when you have a 5G icon plastered to your display, everywhere you're driving, everywhere you're going, you think you're like connected to a great 5G connection. And then your video buffers, now what do you think? You're going to be like,
Yeah.
wait a minute, I thought I had 5G.
I actually have an interesting take on this. I doubt most people will notice any drop in performance. We're measuring the drop in performance
Yeah.
when we do our
Yeah.
speed tests. But when you load a video or you're on social media, I actually doubt most consumers will notice any kind of difference between their new phone and their old phone. And I think from Verizon's standpoint, like, they're able to get away with that marketing.
You're right. I'm not gonna argue with that. I think it's true. The only time people are gonna say something is noticeable in a bad way is if the page doesn't load, is
Yep.
if the video doesn't load, if it buffers, or if the Instagram photo doesn't come up fast enough. Be like, "Oh, this is running kinda slow." As long as those things continue to happen, then they're not really gonna be speed testing. They're not looking at the data. They're not collecting numbers. That
Yeah,
we're like an anomaly in this thing, right?
it's true.
We're doing the heavy lifting for the consumer, but even if you look how many people are in the live, right? We got like 3, 400 people in here.
Yeah,
You got a
345.
dedicated group of people that wanna know, but I think for every one dedicated person who wants to learn more about these network connections and the speeds, there's 9 who have no clue what we're talking about. You can't even use the term DSS. They're gonna ask you if that's some kinda disease or something. They're like, "Who's got DSS?" Like,
Burn it down, light it on
yeah,
fire. It's a big problem.
right,
Alright,
man.
what I wanna do now is I think we gotta talk about the pink network. This was by far my biggest surprise and also my biggest disappointment. So this was T-Mobile. To T-Mobile's credit, to some degree, their 5G was everywhere. I think I got it in the most locations out of any network.
Sure.
But as you can tell, the download speed was consistently slower, except in a couple instances, and the upload speed was usually a little bit faster. But this was all T-Mobile's low band, which we kind of touched on with Verizon. But Verizon's doing DSS, whereas T-Mobile, they're doing like a dedicated low band build out, right?
Yeah.
So what is T-Mobile's strategy now, and how are they approaching 5G besides like ripping on Verizon unnecessarily, in my opinion?
So, from like an actual network technology standpoint, they have dedicated channels for their 5G. They have a couple dedicated channels. So they have N71, which is their low band 5G, that is 600 megahertz. Typically, we see it applied in a 5 megahertz channel or 10 megahertz mostly. I see a lot of that. Some people have shared 15 megahertz, which is very good. We like to see the channels widening, right?
Yep.
So count me in on that. I'm a big fan of that. If they own enough spectrum in certain markets, they could do more, right? If they had 20, if they had 25, they could do more. But they always have to, you still have to allocate some for LTE because there are people that have phones from 2017, which are band 41 for LTE capable, or excuse me, band 71 for LTE capable, but they're not N71. They're not 5G band 71.
Okay.
So that's where things get kind of touchy. Now, let's talk about your experience with N71. If you have a 15 megahertz channel of N71 and you're like one of the few people on it because not a lot of people have a 5G phone yet, your experience is tremendous compared to somebody who has the 5 megahertz of LTE, right?
Ah,
And it's
yeah.
congested, for example. You get
Okay.
what I'm saying? So that
Yeah.
now, so let's talk about how you can manipulate this. If your phone covers both bands, N71 and LT71, you could turn off 5G if it's a slow 5 megahertz 5G connection, right? So if 15 megahertz is on LTE and 5 megahertz is on 5G, you would just turn 5G off in your settings. And then you would be switched over to the LTE only, and you'd have a wider channel.
Okay.
But not everybody knows. And everybody's market is different, so it's market to market, it's phone to phone, it's configuration kind of varies. So that's the situation with low band, and that's why we see, as people have adopted more 5G phones, we've seen the speeds plummet in the low band 5G. There's just the channels are skinny, you know?
Wow. And it's
So
getting
then
more
we
congested a little bit with the new
Yes,
devices. Okay.
yes, and that's why you get all that variation between the LTE and the 5G over band 71. And, the band 41 situation is a little different because those channels are much larger. We're talking, in most cases, people are connecting to 60 megahertz of it.
That's great.
Yeah, which is tremendous. People are averaging 300, 400 megs per second on that.
Oh, wow. I wanna
Yeah,
get that.
same
Where's
here.
T-Mobile
And
here? I think
well,
T-Mobile is actually the lowest ranked carrier in the Denver market.
yeah, it's well, so market share is one thing,
Yep.
right? And then usually with a high market share leads to more congestion, right? Because you have more users on your network. Sometimes it's tower density, they don't have enough sites. Sometimes it's old tower configurations, like they only have band 12 on a tower. That's gonna be a problem. You want band 12, you want band 71, you want band 66. That's where things, you add bandwidth, right? You're
Okay, yeah, yeah.
adding more channels, and they aggregate them together. They add them all up. So, like on Verizon, they've got a 4 carrier aggregation setup. That's a high capacitive connection. You might be connected to 60 megahertz. T-Mobile uses a 3 carrier aggregation setup if they're gonna maximize a tower, right? So, band 71, band 41, band 2, it would be and they can get wider, right? So, and this is where the N41 piece comes in. This spectrum they got from Sprint in the merger. This is what the merger was really about.
Yep.
Yeah, they got the customers, Stetson. There's no doubt, right? They
They
got
didn't
all
care
the
about the
customers.
customers, though.
Well, I mean, they pay
A
their
little
bill,
bit.
so I think they
Sure.
care, right?
Alright, yeah, they get some revenue from that. No one's complaining about it,
Right.
but
Yeah.
really it
So
was about the mid-band spectrum, like, that's where T-Mobile's really hoping to win this, race to 5G as it sort of turns out to be.
yeah, right on. Exactly.
All
Yeah.
right, we actually have a great question, I think, from Dennis that I was wondering the answer here too. Dennis, thank you again for your support. Why does 5G consume more power on phones than LTE? And Steve, I'm interested to hear your take on this. My quick take is I was actually listening to the Vergecast about the new Snapdragon 888, and what they talked about is with the 865 modem that's in Samsung's newest 5G phones for 2020, that's in the new iPhones that came out in 2020.
The
They
Qualcomm
actually
X55.
yeah, they actually separated the modem from the processor. So it's actually more power consumption. And with the new Snapdragon 888, Qualcomm has merged them back together into one chip. So that's my take. I think because it's a separate chip inside the phone on those higher end flagships with the 865 and the X55, or excuse me, is it the X60 or is the X60 the new one?
So the X60 will be the one that's up and coming.
Yeah, so I
We're
think
expecting that in like the first. Maybe what do you guys think it'll be called? The S21, maybe. I think
it's
that's what
gotta
it is.
be.
Okay. I don't know, man. They're
It's
gonna do
got they
S30.
switched
I
to
don't
the
know, man. I
because
don't
they did
know.
it by year, like, alright, it's 2020,
Yeah.
so we'll have the
Right.
S20, so it
Yeah.
has to be the 2020 or the 21, otherwise, what are they doing?
Yeah. Well, we hope because I mean, we've been wrong in the past. You never know. They
It's
could always
true.
pivot, right? So,
Yeah,
but
do you have
yeah,
any
that's
ideas on this?
so when you integrate the chipset,
Yeah,
and you look at the well, or I should say, when you integrate the modem into the chipset, SoC, system on a chip, your modem is needed to pick up your signal,
yeah,
right? So to pick up the LTE, to pick up the 5G NR. Um, the problem we saw with the last 2 generations of chipsets is if you look at the 2019 5G phones, and the battery life was horrendous. It was so bad, Stetson. The 2020 versions are much better.
yeah,
And they're better at 2 things. Number 1, they're better with power efficiency. Number 2, they're better at dissipating heat. When these machines our phones are computers, when these machines run hot, they don't run well,
yeah,
right? So, being able to dissipate the heat helped a lot. And it's that integration piece. If we're gonna keep this chipset with the SoC processor, all of this, we're gonna keep it separate from the modem, you know, maybe that's better because 'cause it'll dissipate the heat better. But what it did was it messed with the power transfer.
yeah,
Like having to communicate, there's a little bit of distance, like physiological distance there, right? I think some of that has to be worked out in engineering, and I think it comes with time, and I think it comes with, research and design and, just testing. And not to say that we're guinea pigs, but unfortunately, if you were
we're
an
guinea
early
pigs.
adopter, right? If you were an early adopter of a 2019 5G phone, you were a beta tester. And if I'm gonna be brutally honest with everyone, even 2020, we were also beta testers. The real deal is happening once we go to standalone 5G next year,
Yeah,
and, it's just early adopter, issues. We pay big money and we have a lesser experience, man.
that's actually an interesting point. So, from my understanding, T-Mobile basically when they lit up their 5G network, they gave all carriers, so all of the MVNOs, the smaller prepaid carriers, access to their 5G network. But now it turns out, I believe they only gave access to the non standalone 5G network. So as T Mobile builds out towards standalone coverage, the 5G that's currently available with some of the MVNOs, the coverage will either shrink or sort of disappear, which I thought was interesting. And I didn't necessarily realize that until doing further research into it.
I really wish I could comment on it. I think that's gonna be a wait and see how
Yeah.
noticeable that's gonna be, Stetson, I'd love to comment, but you just don't know. Because once they do this whole standalone and non-standalone thing,
Yeah.
the standalone is a good move. The network becomes more intelligent. It becomes more dynamic. It switches and modifies and changes in real time as demand by users starts to change, like literally second to second. So at some point, they're going to move and shift to a completely, standalone 5G network core. That's going to minimize and eliminate a lot of those problems. But yeah, because they operate a lot of non-standalone 5G, it makes sense. They'll keep prepaid and MVNO on that side.
Yeah.
That's really technical, and that's why I'm saying it's kinda wait and see. We'll have to see what Neville Ray and the technology team does. And I know you got pictures. We're gonna
Oh
take a
my
look at
god,
Neville
yeah.
Ray, but we really don't know, and there's a viewer in here, Sebastian, if you've seen him, Sebi. He's always been that voice of reason for me. "You gotta wait and see, Sneed. You don't know." And because I always jump. I'm like, "Why are they doing this? Why are they doing this?" It doesn't make sense, but you never know until the new tech is deployed and we actually try it.
Yeah, yeah. I I think when it comes to standalone and non-standalone, my biggest issue is kind of like with AT&T, you just can't tell on the coverage map, like, where it is. Like, I wanted to test it, like, is there a difference
Yeah.
between standalone with the 5G network core? You don't think there is? You think it's just based on the technology? Because it all comes down to the spectrum, right?
I don't really get the standalone situation right now because they don't have a dedicated standalone 5G network core. So unless I could get Neville into a room where he could not lie,
Yeah.
right? Unless I could guarantee that, I don't know anything about the network. The standalone 5G piece because they're doing band 71 standalone 5G and non-standalone 5G. Then they're doing N41 LTE non-standalone and standalone. It's complicated. I don't know.
Yeah,
And they're
I
not
think
gonna tell you their secrets, right? These are trade secrets. I don't know. I wish I knew more.
Dennis, thank you for the support. I'll try and answer this the best I can. What do carriers gain from restricting access to standalone 5G for MVNO? Shouldn't carriers be doing everything in their power to move people over? Yes, I do think carriers should be doing everything in their power to move as many people over to 5G as possible to help reduce congestion. Although it sounds like with some deployments of 5G, like with Verizon's DSS, you can't really, there's nothing you can do. There's not enough spectrum there to solve the congestion problems. I think for T-Mobile specifically, because I believe this is just a T-Mobile thing, my imagination is that this has to do with their network build out and the technical aspects of granting standalone 5G access to these MVNOs, and something to do on the back end that truthfully I don't know entirely about. But
I
I
don't
do
think many
appreciate,
people
yeah.
do, Stetson. I don't
And
think
then
many people do.
I think we got to talk about T-Mobile's latest graphic here. For anyone who
Oh,
missed it,
dude.
T-Mobile is doing they're trying so hard to explain this 5G concept, and I think it just keeps getting worse
It is.
and worse and worse. Like, I was okay with the cake thing, like, okay, layer cake, fine, whatever, I get it. And then what did they do? Like RC cars? It is
Yeah,
just,
yeah.
oh my goodness. So here they're now using a golf analogy, which is,
I don't even play golf.
I think, okay, so you got your driver. So this is for like going long distances. I get
Mm,
that. I think here's the problem with T-Mobile's analogies. All of T-Mobile's analogies. You get the concept of distance, right? Like your layer cake, your bottom layer goes farther, your middle layer doesn't go as far, your top layer doesn't go as far.
mm.
This golf thing, okay, your driver will go really far, your 6-iron will go a medium distance, and your putter is like for getting really close up. I think the problem is T-Mobile isn't acknowledging the bandwidth potential of the higher frequencies. That is really where you're getting the difference in 5G. That's the difference people want to see. They want to experience those faster speeds, higher download, higher upload, and they want to be able to take advantage of. Like that, in my opinion, is really the true 5G experience as of today. And T-Mobile is doing their best to make infographics to make it seem like you want the other kind of 5G, but I don't think you do.
Every frequency type has its place. I think we're all there. I think the general consumer is unaware of these things, nor do I think they even care.
I think that's probably
And
true.
and they don't have to care. And they don't have to distinguish these. They don't need a physics degree and they don't want to, understand it, and that's okay. The problem with this marketing and this is all reaching. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying, Stetson? They're throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what stick. The way that you know that is because it's rapid fire. Every
They're
week
just swapping it up.
it's a new
Okay,
thing.
they didn't
So
get
that
it. They didn't get it. Something else.
they're literally throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what happens because nothing has worked till now. They went all in on layer cake last year. Nobody responded. They went all in on, I don't know, it was like dinosaurs. They had a T-Rex, they had a Brontosaurus, they had a Velociraptors. I don't know, man. It
I
was
think
like
I
Jurassic
remember
Park,
that.
dude. You know, I don't know why, what I but here's what it tells you.
Yeah,
They still don't have the marketing down for their 5G. They don't.
interesting.
They don't have the see, Verizon is just they're all in with one thing.
They have it
They
on lock, right? You're seeing it running before the
5G,
Super
yes,
Bowls,
yes.
5G built right. And
That's their thing. Yeah.
yeah, maybe we should kind of end on that. Who do you think, as of right now, is building 5G right? Are they all doing 5G right to their own degree, or is there one that you feel is more beneficial to the consumer in 2020 and start of 2021 as it stands right now?
I wish I could Frankenstein this answer, Stetson.
Sure.
I want Verizon's money to deploy the 2.5 gigahertz that T-Mobile has.
Ah, okay.
You see what I'm saying? Like, I
Yeah.
really wish I could fuse the two together. I wanna Frankenstein it. Or you can give me AT&T's money because like,
What money,
AT&T
Steve? They're in debt. Have you
no,
heard your own podcast? They're in big debt.
but it's right, that's true. Every big company has debt, though.
Yeah.
And so, like, if I look at the asset to debt ratio, AT&T's still the best of the big 3. Still. Even with 160 billion in debt, they still own so much. Stetson, let's say you owed somebody $100 million, but you're worth $1 billion. You're
Yeah.
not worried. You're
That's
like, "Oh,
true.
I'll pay him eventually." He'll get his money. I'm still
Yeah,
rich.
yeah,
You know what I'm That's literally how AT&T is. So, as of right now, I think the difference maker in 5G, it feels like 5G. If you can, like, attach it because of performance, millimeter wave is the truth.
yeah.
The problem is it's an immature work in progress when it comes to range and propagation indoors. The solution for indoors is to actually move the nodes indoors. So that means they have to build out not only outside near the entrances, right? Streets, they also have to put DAS systems and nodes indoors, which is time consuming. Even
And
if it gets
expensive.
cheaper, it will be pricey, but it's the most effective way.
Yep.
So imagine this, Stetson, you're going to Walmart, you pull up in the parking lot, you're getting 2 gigs per second on your phone. You walk into Walmart, you're getting 2 gigs per second on your phone because the DAS system's indoors, right? So you're
Yeah.
literally addressing the shortcoming of the technology. Eventually that happens. That takes time. The T-Mobile approach is with mid-band. That works indoors. They've gotta make it a little bit better. I've been testing it.
Do you have
It's
mid-band in your market?
Yeah, we have the 2.5 gigahertz M41
Oh,
here.
wow.
A
Sweet.
handful of sites, I've tested them. It's not that great.
Okay.
It needs time. They've just started, installing it, deploying it, and it will be good. It eventually will be good. We just have to be patient. I actually, if you are a T-Mobile customer and you are waiting to upgrade and you're wondering, should I upgrade now because now my market's got N41? It might be worth it. But if you're in the CLE, if you're with, in my case where there's 4 tower sites with it, hold your horses. No need to rush out and upgrade. But if you're an iPhone person, man, that new iPhone is tremendous. And it's got everything. Stetson, you're using it.
I got 4 of them
Worthy
actually, yeah.
What do you want? So worth the upgrade?
I think it depends where you're coming from. I was coming from an iPhone XS. I think it's a tremendous upgrade just for the camera and battery life alone. I think if you're someone who's got the 11 or 11 Pro, I think the real upgrade you're getting is mostly to 5G. And actually, from my testing, I don't think that's worth it. I think you're going to get a better upgrade experience waiting for the 2021 iPhone because Apple was rumored to use a high refresh display on this year's model. That fell
Only
through.
right.
That can only mean in 2021 we're getting the high refresh rate iPhone, and that will be a game changing experience in my opinion. So yeah, Sneed, I loved your answer. I think I agree with you. Initially, when the marketing for 5G started coming out, I really liked T-Mobile's approach because in my mind it made sense. All right, they're reaching more people, and from what they were saying, it was about a 20% improvement. And I thought that's great. A lot of people getting improved speeds. Sounds good. After I did my extensive speed tests, I'm now with you. I think Verizon's deployment is really the only carrier, and AT&T with their millimeter wave as well. But in my market, Verizon was the only one that had it. But that's really the next gen experience. So I'm a big fan of Verizon. Like I'd rather have the existing LTE and that incredible millimeter wave where it's deployed than slower 5G speeds that I was seeing on T-Mobile. So
I think what it's boiling down to, Stetson, is, and this is a joke that I say on my channel,
yeah,
friends don't let friends low band 5G. It's the channels are so uninspiring. It's got reach, right? It's low band. Travels far. Driver, okay. Layer cake, right?
yeah.
All these things, but you're just not gonna get the transcendental experience change. It's just not going to happen. The mid band, if the concentration of spectrum is there, can also do gig speed, which
Wow.
C band here in the auctions this week, a little bit of CBRS in the last auction. We're gonna see mid-band hitting gigabit speed, but millimeter wave is going to be doing multi-gig speed in every place that it's deployed. That's
Yeah.
why, when you call it a game changer, that's where I'm at too. I'm looking for a game changer. We're gonna upgrade phones at $1,000 a clip. We need the game changer.
Yeah, I agree with that. Well, I think that's going to be it for this special live stream. Thank you, everyone who came out and watched. It was a pleasure hosting everyone. I thought we had some great questions and a very active live chat, which I appreciate. Sneed, where can people find you on the internet? I think I actually linked your channel in the description. So
My dude. You
please
can
be sure to
find me.
check that out.
Yep,
What you do live streams actually pretty regularly. What's
I
your
do.
schedule look like for that?
So Fridays, pretty much it's like a religious holiday, right? Like every
Yep.
Friday we do something. So it's like, people go to church on Sundays. We do the SMT podcast on Fridays. So we do that live stream. I also usually try to get one on Sundays as well.
Okay.
So we're actually going to go ahead and carry this over. If you guys want to check me out, 9 p.m. on my channel. Wait, it's about 8:18. I
Yeah.
could set it up for 8:30. Stetson, if you'd like to migrate over with me and join me for
Sure.
that show and
That
hang
sounds
out
like a
for a little
blast.
bit, we'll do that. I'll have a couple other guys on there hanging out if they can make it, some staples on the channel. We're pretty interactive. The community is very strong. People supporting each other, and learning about network technologies, the phones, the capabilities, the features, the plans. It's really nice. SMT Nation, man. And
Yeah.
I see a lot of the SMT Nation finding their way over to Stetson Nation, which is
Appreciate
phenomenal.
it.
I
I
really
appreciate
appreciate
it.
you guys.
Yeah, no, I started listening to your podcast. I really love it. I feel like I'm learning so much about the different deployments, network technologies, the different strategies the carriers have, kind of problems they're facing, what's going on with leadership. So I really appreciate, all the work the SMT Nation is doing, keeping everyone updated, following the news, and calling it like it is, testing the networks, getting the results, and reporting it. So
Yeah.
appreciate
Thank
it. You can find Sneed Mobile Tech in the video description. His channel is linked there. Be sure to check it out, and we'll actually be live in just a few minutes over there. So thank you all so much for coming, and I look forward to talking to you in the next one.
See you guys.
Peace.
Peace.